So, how would you feel if somebody said you are no longer fit for purpose? I was devastated. So let's start with a stressful day at the office. And the stress was, of course, absolutely work-related. Or was it? Hmm. Well, I know about stress. I know about PTSD, psychological therapies. I know about those things because it's my job. So why wasn't I applying my knowledge to myself? Well, just because I'm trained doesn't mean I don't sometimes need help too. That would have been a really cool thought. The problem was my head was full of what if. I'd lost connection with what now, that magical moment where everything happens. And my thinking was drifting. It was drifting between somewhere back then, wherever that was, and this imagined utopia way off in the future. Statistically speaking, 74% of UK adults have felt so stressed over the last couple of years that they felt overwhelmed or unable to cope. 32% experienced suicidal feelings because of stress, and 16% actually self-harmed. There's a lot of talk about work-related stress. I'm sure you've heard some of it. My stress originated outside work. So at the end of that stressful day, I went home and pointed my mountain bike at the forest. 5 kilometers later, I crashed and had a tantrum. And that was supposed to be a stress-relieving bike ride. Good grief. And what did I learn from that experience? Nothing. My head stayed firmly buried in the sand, and I acted like I was okay. And that worked because nobody interrupted my Oscar worthy performance. And then a few months later, I crashed again. This time, atop of the tibia fracture, a bit more serious than the first time round. And that was followed by several weeks off work to recover. A year later, I was addicted to pain relief medication. And then a letter arrived from a senior doctor. You have an appointment. Bring a partner, husband, wife, friend. Well, that wasn't worrying. So there I was. I thought I'd better polish my wheelchair because me or one of our 3 under 7s has probably dropped food on it. So there we are sitting in the doctor's office. And it's a beautiful spring day. I remember everything about it, the light coming in the window and so on. The sunlight was flooding through the window. And then the doctor said, I'm sorry to tell you, Steve, that you shouldn't expect to leave your wheelchair again, ever. And then we were outside the hospital building in silence. The opiate addict was now officially confined to a wheelchair. And when that medical report landed on my employer's desk, I was called to an examination with an occupational health doctor. He pushed me really hard. He really pushed. And more than once tried to get me to admit that I was no longer able to do my job. I pushed back, push. I kept pushing. Images of my partner and our young children ran on repeat through my mind until the doctor's voice kind of got hold of me and dragged me back to reality. You were no longer fit for purpose. That meeting ended abruptly, and those words kind of dug deep into every aspect of my being. And the fog around me became so impenetrable that I lost my sense of self. Doctors challenged the pain with a cascade of interventions: minor surgery, medical processes, medications, physiotherapy, MRI, CT, X-ray, probably more, I can't remember all of them. It was all about the body. A physiotherapist came along and he taught me how to breathe through the pain. This was my first mindfulness intervention, and it had a remarkable effect after a few weeks of frequent practice. And while I was breathing through the pain, I noticed images and sensations from my past. In particular, when I felt depressive symptoms, I always seem to have heightened knee pain. And knee pain is associated with depressive symptoms. Thing was, well, at the time, the medics didn't link these things together, although they did respond to my depressive symptoms by offering more medications, which I refused, and sessions with a psychologist. The psychologist asked me what I wanted. I said to get back to the way things were. She didn't need to tell me that there was no going back. Still, those sessions did help. The pity was that they stopped after 8 sessions, and I was offered a group program. So by this part of the story, we'd moved our home from the Netherlands back to the UK. I'd lost my job. There were 3 children when I crashed out. Now there's 6. There was massive motivation to repair the morphine-addicted partner and dad. So what was this group program all about? Well, I was no stranger to delivering group programs for young people in various community groups. To be offered a place in a therapy group, to be honest, scared the hell out of me. I would be asked to share my vulnerabilities in front of people I didn't know. People would judge. I had enough on my plate with my own problems. Why on earth would I want to join a group and get involved with other people's problems? Sounds a little selfish, right? There was a bigger problem. One of the members of the group team was a nurse practitioner who specialized in pain relief medications and other medications too. I had heard that she didn't support the use of opiates for pain management. The addicted me had a meltdown about the possibility of my pain meds being interfered with or even removed. So let's think about addiction for a minute. The UK has the highest consumption rate of prescription opioids for pain management in the entire world. Fact. I was one of those statistics. I was completely addicted and displaying behavior associated with addicts. The thought of stopping the medications was unthinkable. I had no control and regularly took more than prescribed. I became sneaky at getting more, so I would never run out. My addictive behavior was absolutely not causing any negative consequences. Denial there, Steve. I needed more. It wasn't reducing the pain. So can it happen to anyone? Or is it a sign of a weak character or some kind of moral failing? Well, science has confirmed that addiction is a chronic brain disease that can happen to anyone. But despite this, there is still widespread belief that addiction is the result of weak character or moral failing. Addiction experts argue that the behaviors of an addict aren't because they lack any morality or a strong character. And that's because it's a disease or mental illness. Well, I wasn't concerned with character or morality, not then. I simply needed the medication to place a soothing blanket over the physical and mental pain. It didn't take the pain away. Without intervention and treatment, though, it's really unlikely that addictive behavior will end. Well, the group started the process. They started the process of intervention. And I discovered that my concerns were unfounded. There was no judgment, just understanding, shared vulnerabilities and empathy. And the group turned some of the lights back on. Enough for me to say to a doctor that I needed help. So the next 2 years were previously unimaginable. Think of the worst thing you can that makes you want to scream. I'm talking about the screech of fingernails on metal or a chalkboard. Anything that threatens your sanity. Now multiply that feeling tenfold. That's how I felt. And it took 2 years to reclaim my body and sense of self. I did it through mindfulness. I did it through personal development, through coaching, through talk therapy, through group therapy. And, big one, I resurrected my skills to help other people in all of these areas. I'd been a life passenger for long enough, too long. Never again. I would never go back to the way things were before I spectacularly crashed out. And I would never go back to believing that I was no longer fit for purpose. I have a family, a wonderful business. I ride my mountain bike daily and I ski in the winter. Do you know what? I'm absolutely fit for purpose.